Hi everyone, I can't believe it's already 20 episodes of Retention Zone since we started last October, focusing on how to monetize streaming media, acquiring and retaining customers. It has been a fascinating journey talking to people from different angles of the industry. And I have the latest episode with some snippet of each conversation for the last 9 episodes, just after this. I wanted to focus on what I've learned, what I've seen happening, talking to people, but also observing the market. A lot of changes in few months has already happened. Let's see the things that capture my attention through these conversations. The first one is we need to realize that even if we're in constant transformation, and you read, I would say every day, will change streaming forever. This will change media forever. This will change sport forever. I think we need to realize that full model transformation takes years. So yes, everything is constantly transforming, but very often we see the same models, the different models coexisting for a long, long time. One thing that is clear is that the attention in streaming as if you want transition from looking at subscriber numbers, we still do, it's crucial, looking on the revenue that those subscribers generate, and eventually, and that's the focus of this year, where sustainability of this business model is being questioned, is profits. The third point is the instinctive, if you want, focus on acquiring new customers, no? Always having new customers because you want to grow. I don't want to say it's replaced, it's balanced now, and finally, by the attention everybody's now putting on retaining existing customers for many, many reasons. One, acquiring is very expensive, retaining can be expensive too if you don't do it well, but now there is a lot that can help you to really focus in terms of strategy, of tools, on operation to retain your customers. And four, retaining customer, it's clearly a multidisciplinary effort. So you really need all angles of the business to work together to achieve significant results. And it can be from the content side to the customer experience, to the product, to the technology, the data analytics parts, the direct-to-marketing operation. I think it's really a set of teams that have to work together to make it happen. 5, what we have seen in the last year and a half is that clearly now you need maybe an hybrid model to really be successful and sustainable. So it will be a combination going forward of SVOD, AVOD, TVOD, whatever else VOD, and fast and other, if you want, monetization strategies to work together. On that front, you then need to work natively and more holistically with strategies, with tools that take that new model in consideration. And 6, very close to my heart, to my expertise, sport is still the special one. Again, still, I think in many ways, sport is very front and center in this moment. Not only because of the big media rights deals, of the transformation in media rights in sport, but it's still one of the top content that acquire new customers and retain customers. But it's a very complex and sophisticated game. And 7, one of the complexity of sport is the seasonality. So you really need to play well in terms of strategy, in terms also of tools, to understand that each sport has its own seasonality. So if you put together a bundle of sports, or if you focus on a single sport, that's something where you need to build not only a content strategy, but also a retention strategy. 8, we have seen big players going beyond video. It's gaming, it's betting, it's merchandising. So maybe another way of grow and keep this business sustainable could be enlarging beyond content, beyond video content, which has always been, if you want, number one priority in this area. And 9, what we have observed is this, if you want, journey around bundle at the beginning, then fragmentation, going vertical, then rebundle. But I think in the end, we may focus a lot on that. The real challenge or the real race is who can create an experience that makes it the one-stop shop for many things, destination for customers. Because maybe the fragmentation of offering, it's not only subscription fatigue, I think it's the confusion of where should I go to watch something that I care about or even discover, maybe as a solution with someone providing this one big aggregator. It's maybe the race of the next year. at least. And 10, I mean, who will survive, who will thrive in the coming years and months? I have no idea. I don't do prediction, but clearly it will be a fascinating journey to observe because there are so many different things happening, and some will win, some will not. So let's see and watch the next months with a lot of interest. And now this is what I've recorded in the last 3 months or 2 months and a half of this year. Enjoy.
Very clear to see that the difference between how users behave when they interact with personalization. They stay longer, they watch more. Therefore, that in itself is a clear indication that you need to sort of think about that personalization strategy, all those different touch points, because it will have a positive impact on retention. And it's quite startling as well that you look at how users that interact with personalization are almost, you know, two to three times less likely to churn than those that don't. So when you see stats like that, I think it's really compelling. But also I think it's really easy then for a product person or a marketing person to decide actually there's real evidence there that suggests if we do work together and actually, you know, think about these things in tandem, they can have some real positive business impact to performance.
Right. I mean, it's basically the business that's changed. I mean, when we were mentioning OTT changing everything, I was always a bit surprised because basically we went from, you know, using satellite and cable to going over the top, but by basically selling the same type of offering with the same type of channel. Obviously, SVOD came in the picture, but outside of that, there were little change to the way we were ending the business. But obviously, with the arrival of the dedicated player in that area, like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and so on, the market really changed and became much more getting that satellite dish, and then basically you were, you know, chained to a Canal Plus offering until the end of times. And that was, I would say, not an easy business, but much easier than it is today, where suddenly there are so many different players on the market, so many different offerings.
I mean, company going down or aggregating, bundling, mostly because of churn. What is the reason behind churn, even if I understand there are many? What's your view on that?
I mean, I think the big reason is, you know, is you can, right? People are like, oh, I'm not watching this anymore. I can just, you know, there's no penalty to coming out of it. And like, you know, and I think a lot of people have got in the habit of like, okay, I'm going to watch this show on this service. And when it's over, I'm going to unsubscribe because there's nothing else that I want to watch. So one key thing is to kind of, you know, is to use whether it's AI and other tricks to sort of figure out, okay, how do I show this person things that keep them on this service? I think one thing that's going to help, and I've been sort of pushing this for a while, is we're going to start seeing linear channels on the SVOD services as well. They all have huge libraries and people never see them. And as a result, you know, they're sort of unaware unless the algorithm shows it. So I think we're going to start seeing them taking their libraries and making linear channels, you know, because they've seen that they're popular on the fast. So why not do it for them?
Doing two things. One, we are working increasingly with a smaller pool of service providers that offer a similar to exploiting everything your content library has. We've got a lot of people we are working with that offer a lot more than we were taking, and so we're trying to rationalize our vendors and let them take some of the heavy lifting around data integrity and so on, so that we can take out the internal resource, I guess our analytics team's time to move away from the heavy lifting around matching and mixing data and everything that goes along with that, and actually spend more time on the insights. So this is very much a work in progress. We've got, I think we're starting the year with some very clear objectives.
Streaming penetration of the MENA region is 8%. So I assume in the US, so definitely the dynamic are different. Another interesting point is that there are, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, so 60 active platforms 45 of them are what I call homegrown or local streaming services. With the main one being like Shahid that we just talked about, OSM Plus, Todd. I'm sure you know very well this one.
I just had James Walmsley on the
amazing
podcast. Yes,
no, it's an amazing platform also. Then you have the global giants, but there are not that many global giants here. You have Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, Apple TV Plus. That's it. So that's why also this region is very specific. And then you have the international streaming services that are active. It means they have a team here. They localize the content strategy. They acquire content from the local players, etc. And most of them are Indian players. Okay. The main reason is that we share the same audience. So it makes sense for them to invest resources and target the region. So complex market, it's different countries, sub-regions maybe, with totally like a different kind of population, language. Of course, they don't have the same like price sensitivity. The penetration of mobile CTV is totally different if you talk about UAE, Saudi, Egypt. Those three countries are the most like powerful one when it comes to streaming. Yeah. So it's important to mention them. And so they still a lot to do. And I talk a lot about the local streaming ecosystem because they know very well the region and they are successful in terms of number of subscribers compared to the global players that are still like struggling.
I mean, the data science piece of it is critical, no doubt there. And, my closest collaborators at AMC were the business intelligence group. The key, though, is not so much do you have data, are you able to process the data quickly, but do you understand your industry well enough to read the data? In some ways, analyzing data is like reading tea leaves. A pattern of data can tell you 37 different answers depending on how you view them. And I think what was most interesting to see is how a group who were deeply familiar with how ad-supported cable worked evolved their understanding of what the data meant when it was applied to a very different product. And so I think that is a slightly long way of saying data in and of itself doesn't tell the answer, nor therefore does machine learning or AI, because it's about how you train the model. And if you train an expert, human or computer, they need to know what the context is in which they're interpreting that data. Otherwise, you come to very, very incorrect conclusions.
We started with some monthly subscription and with pay-per-view. Especially, my opinion, as a new player, you have to propose pay-per-view to give the clients the user security that nothing will be booked again and again from their credit cards. I speak about subscriptions. So the first year we proposed PPV for each match and monthly subscription. Later on, as we had more events, more sports, we realized that the different sport fans have completely different attitude. It means there is no, they are not connecting to each other. So there is no overspill, or this overspill is incredibly small. So we tried to establish a sport pass. We did it with table tennis. We cooperate with a German platform called Sport Deutschland TV and promoted and sold sport pass or table tennis pass on this platform to the table tennis. So we had several sports, and for example, we had, let's take golf and table tennis. For the golf fans, they made their subscription and never control the breaks during the season. So we had several breaks, like let's say 1 month, but no one canceled the subscription or no one paused the subscription. Speaking about, for example, table tennis, I had the situation where for each break over 1 month, people were cutting the subscription and coming back when tournament starts again.
I think the numbers don't lie, right? So customer acquisition is much more expensive than customer retention. The time to acquire new clients, set them up, etc. It's prohibitively expensive for some companies. And then you've got the amount of actual physical time an individual subscriber has to actually consume content. At a certain amount of minutes, that's it. You don't have more minutes in the day. You don't have more devices to watch at the same time. So I think it's you've got to make sure that you're providing the stuff that these consumers want. So you need to be always ahead of the curve in terms of understanding your client base, providing them with an excellent service technically. So it's as you said, frictionless. So they're not thinking, oh God, I'd love to watch that, but it's just a pain in order to be able to see it. So that's all got to be taken care of completely, and it's got to be affordable. At a certain point, you get to the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 streaming services. You think, well, it's a little bit too expensive, especially when the macroeconomic situation isn't great. People are having to think about where they use their money. So you've got to be sure that they're choosing to use money on your side of things, which means everything needs to be worthwhile. They have to have value.
The fundamental challenge is that there's no one size fits all anymore, which has been there in the past with the multi-channel video bundle, because audiences were monopolized and aggregated by the linear television distribution system, and habits and preferences were quite homogeneous. Nowadays, audience are completely fragmented across a bunch of different distribution and system and platforms. And by the way, audience are difficult to move. Once they are loyal to a platform, they stick around. Content can move audiences, but it must be like top-notch, top of the pyramid content. So the fact that audiences are fragmented and habits and preferences have become more heterogeneous, by definition means like this one-size-fits-all model doesn't work anymore. So I think all the things that you mentioned are valid, and I think as a fundamental approach that I would like to see the industry embrace is we have this subscription business. The subscription business will always be there. It's the reason why it's the default approach. It's the base, and absolutely valid. It is a challenge. It doesn't have the scale, stickiness, and pricing power that the linear pay TV bundle had.